Remember this dog from last week? She is so afraid. She's clinging to the wall over there, and I stood outside of her cage and tried to coax her over to this side, but she wanted nothing to do with me. So I went over to the other side and to see if I could talk to her over there. And when I did, she's smart too, because she knew I was coming around. You can see her start to look like, oh, she disappeared. Where's she going? And she promptly waited for me to come and knew I was coming and got the heck out of there. See, she knows. She's going to look and see. So anyway, this dog, we don't know what's happened to her. They say she's feral. Maybe she's never lived with humans. Maybe she's been feral her whole life, or maybe she hasn't. We really don't know. I know she's not aggressive. She doesn't growl. She doesn't bark. She doesn't show her teeth. She doesn't act vicious in any kind of way, which I would kind of expect of a feral dog. And she just looks like she has a lot of hurt and pain in her face. That's what I see. She looks sweet to me. And I just kept talking to her the whole time. Now, this time I snuck up on her. Oh no, this time she ran back over there. I didn't get there in time. So I went back over there again. She came back through another time. So this time I snuck back up so that she didn't hear me coming, and I was able to shut the door and keep her on the clean side. So there she is, coming back in, and there, I got her in. So I stayed outside the cage for a long time, and then I went inside the cage, and I was able to get pretty close to her and even start touching her a little bit on her back without her running away. Now, they had to move my camera because they were bringing new dogs back in from the yard, so I didn't get that on film. So I decided to do it again. I got my camera back, and I thought I would go in the cage and start from where I left off. So I had gotten pretty close to her, and that's where I started when I go back in the cage a second time. She was shaking like a leaf the entire time when I was first outside of the cage. And I tried to get that on film, but it's really hard to see. You can barely see her shaking, but in person, she was shaking like a leaf, just shaking. But eventually, she stopped, and she never did it again the whole time I was there. She just totally calmed down. You could even hear her sigh at one point where she was just letting her air out and relaxing more. So here I am coming in for the second time, and I'm going to move to the point of where I was, and she always shows an interest. You know, she looks at me, and I don't know if that's because she's just afraid of me, so she doesn't want to take her eyes off me because she doesn't know what's going to happen, or that she's genuinely curious that someone's paying attention to her, because really, no one just tries anymore. You know, you give up on her. I did too. The first time I was there, I passed by her quickly. It's like, okay, she doesn't want anything to do with people. And she's feral. She can't be trained. But really, I saw such a change in her in a matter of like an hour and a half. And I won't show all the footage. You know, it took me a long time to get to this point of just talking to her. And that's one thing I did. I never stopped talking to her. I constantly told her how pretty she was. I tried all different names: Rusty, Red, Ginger, trying to see if I got any kind of reaction. But I noticed that when I said, "You seem very sad. It seems like you're in pain," her ears moved. She actually reacted to that. And I'm trying to touch her again. I had already gotten, far, but she jumped. Now, she did not snap at me at all. She was not being aggressive. She just flinched when I came near her head. So I realized, I tried the treat again. She doesn't like the treat. She didn't want anything to do with the treats. So I said, okay, let me go back to where I was. Let me just touch her back where she was okay with that. And so she allowed me to do that. She had already felt that and knew that it was all right. And you can see her start to get very comfortable. She starts to slink down a little. Like right now, she's holding herself up. Now, at this point, she actually started to snore a little bit at one point. She started to go to sleep. So she was very comfortable with me petting her on her back. So I realized this is going to be a very slow process with her. I pet her a lot, but I took a lot of breaks. So I would pet her. I tried to be as soft as I could be. Her hair was just falling out because, I mean, she hasn't been brushed or petted in God knows how long. So she had a lot of loose hair, and I just tried to kind of get that off and just pet her real softly, and she started to fall asleep. So I guess she was feeling okay with it. So I knew she was very comfortable with me touching her on her back. She'd gotten used to it, and I just kept petting her and then stopping and taking a break just in case it was stressful. Even though she wasn't showing signs of stress, I just want to make sure I kept giving her that break. And then I would go back to petting her, and what I would do is try and get a little higher, right? I was going to slowly work my way up to her head because I wanted her to feel what it was like to be scratched behind the ears and have her head petted. And so you can see as I got a little higher, she woke up a little and she kept looking at the corner of her eye because you can kind of see her little eyebrow go up when she kept looking over at me. And she still seemed okay. She was no longer shaking. She was very calm and relaxed. And I just kept petting her. And I really wanted more than anything for her to just come sit in my lap and let me just hug her and hug her and hug her. But I knew that was going to take more than a day. And in fact, I was really surprised that I got as far as I did, since no one seems to be able to touch her. And I kept talking to her. The most important thing is I kept telling her how special she was, how pretty she was, how sorry I was for what anybody had ever done to her, if animals had hurt her. So I thought maybe if I give her a little space and I back up, she'll come out of that corner. But she seemed really relaxed where she was. I tried the treat again, which really seems to bother her. So that was the last time I tried the stupid treat. I did leave it with her, and I hoped that she was able to eat it later and enjoy it. So I just kept petting her and slowly working my way up further, her back. And then I noticed she really liked the pats. And when I stopped, she looked over at me like, "Are you done? Is that all?" So I tried to get her to come to my lap. She started to sit up, so I thought maybe she's going to come out of the corner. I was like, "Come here, come here, come here." But she decided no. It's almost like she thought about it for a second. She almost was going to give in, and she decided, no, I better stay here. So then she started to put her paw out and come towards me. I thought, and I made a mistake here. I touched her paw. I should have just let her keep coming out of her shell. And you look at her sweet face. Oh my gosh, what a sweet dog. So I tried to touch her paw though, and then she recoiled. So I should have just left her alone. So she pulled her paw back, but I was able to get a lot further this time, and I did get all the way up to her head. I was able to scratch behind her ears, and at one point she kind of turned her head so I could get the other ear too. I think that's what she was doing, because she seemed to really like the behind the ears. I got away with that. Touching her on her face, she wasn't as, like, under the chin was okay, around the ear. All those scratches I think felt good to her. And she was like giving me more of her back, so I was able to scratch more of her. She was like elongating herself so that I could scratch more. But so I just kept petting her. She wasn't showing signs of being scared. She wasn't shaking. She never showed the shaking again once I was able to really sit with her and pet her. So I just kept petting her and giving her that attention. I realized this is as far as we're going to get today, and that's okay. This is a really big step for you, and I hope it was a help to her. Decided to turn around and see if maybe if I wasn't staring at her that she would come out of that corner. And I kept talking to her though, but she never came out, and I eventually left. And you can see what a beautiful dog she is, and I hope somebody can find it in their heart to take on this beautiful dog.